afraid from tackling touchy subjects on this show, and we do acknowledge this next conversation may strike sort of an emotional nerve. With the approaching holiday season comes an onslaught of treasured family traditions. These are long-standing events, activities, meals, in some cases gatherings, that mean a lot to family members and that research proves are important to our family identity and our family bonds and connections. But, and it's a big but, how do you know when it's time to break up with a tradition? Studio 5 contributor and psychologist Dr. Liz Hale is joining me. It's so good to have you. And this isn't just as simple as saying, we don't want to follow through with the tradition anymore, is it?
I love that you're saying that. So it's breaking up with tradition. We're not breaking up with family, right? So it's about the people, not the patterns. I have to laugh. My very best friend last year, her handsome adult son got married right before Christmas. So they left on their honeymoon, and everyone else was gone for Christmas too, except my friend and her husband, and she was miserable. She was so unhappy. So her son comes home from his honeymoon, and she goes, you know, look, honey, we're gonna have to do things different next year. You know, it's gonna be my turn. He goes, Mom, he goes, Liz said, it's like anytime someone says Liz said, I just cringe. Right? Liz said that we need to get married and start our own traditions. So, you know, and she goes, well, that's just the damnedest thing I've ever heard.
She's like, you give Liz's number and I'll give her a piece of my mind.
I'm calling her right now. But it worked out. What I loved about her flexibility in her mind is that then they were able to celebrate Christmas, I think, on New Year's Eve. So they were just flexible on the date. So it's all about the people, not the patterns that we'd hang on so tightly to.
But that is a passion point for you, that advice you gave that newlywed couple to start your own traditions right up front. Pattern.
Careful what you get into because it will be very hard to get out of. So start fresh, start on your own family tree right up front.
We're asking people to do something emotionally brave, and that's kind of shake loose of these traditions that sometimes hold us down. And you say if you have one thought, the thought being, I have to do this, or I have to serve that, that's when it's time to pause and reflect.
Right. Then this segment is for you.
Uh-oh.
Right? So anytime you're saying, oh, but I've got to do that. Why? Because we always have done that. So really question yourself, though. What is this bringing to our family? Is it time to make any adjustments? Is it time to shake things up a little bit? Is it still working? Because we're all changing and growing, right? And it really isn't about what's around the family. Well, it's who's around the dinner table, but it's not really where that dinner table is. Maybe it's in a restaurant this year. Maybe it's at somebody else's house. Maybe we just let go a little bit.
You acknowledge traditions as sacred territory, though. So what sort of consideration should we put into this on the back end before we do mix things up a little bit?
Well, be considerate first off. I think it's almost perhaps a little too late this year to make any big changes in traditions because we really have to give family members time to process this. During the summer, I was working with a couple, and they were planning on the holidays. They were already getting stressed out about thinking about the holidays coming up, 6 months, you know, Thanksgiving, Christmas. So they made a decision, and they called the parents, her parents, and they said, you know what, Mom and Dad, we've got a lot of thought to this. I know every year we're there in the Midwest for Thanksgiving, but it's just been such a stressful year financially and emotionally that we're just going to stay put. We're just going to breathe a little bit. You know, I so hope you understand. And it was a really good experience for them. They were just trembling as they were doing it because this is a big deal. This is kind of the mama that has everybody at her house, and you don't really break that tradition.
Right.
And they were surprised at how flexible the parents were. And they actually said, you know what, well, we could come for Christmas. So that's what they're going to do. They'll be coming here for Christmas instead.
But they mixed it up for Thanksgiving, and bravely so. The funny thing, and the truth is, I shouldn't say it's a funny thing. It's not funny at all, especially if you're on the receiving end of that call. But the truth is, if you're the one suggesting the change, chances are it favors you. It doesn't affect you all that much. So there are other feelings to really take into consideration.
That's true. We really have to look at the effect of everybody overall. What's really going to work for our family? There's a woman I know who's got a beautiful singing voice, and her tall teen down to her tiny tots are just this gorgeous family, and they have beautiful voices, and they love to Christmas carol. Well, she loves to take them Christmas caroling, right? She buys fancy hats, and they have some fancy coats sometimes, and it's just gotten more and more difficult every year. Everybody's kind of tired a couple days before Christmas, and she said, you know what? I like this, but it's just not working for everybody else. So I'm willing to hang that up for now, but I reserve my right to revisit it later on, you know, when people are a little bit older or a little bit more willing to go.
You mentioned that timing is important, so I'm assuming this isn't a rip the Band-Aid off breakup, that we're going to soft shoe into the change a little bit.
So I think that's helpful for everyone, to just take things a little bit at a time. You know, there's one of our great readers, viewers, wrote in on Facebook saying, you know what, I'm going to do things differently this year because I'm injured, and I can't do what I typically do. And she makes her own vanilla extract, you know, this darling gal. Yeah. So after tears of deciding that I can't decorate the way I used to, we're just all going to go to little America. And it's like, good for you. I have a client, the same thing. She has a traumatic brain injury, and she's going to dole out all of the goodies. So sometimes we have to let go of control, let go of how that pie is going to look, so that we can have more peace. Again, it's about the people, not the pattern.
And it's not then about maybe Xing it off the list altogether, but tweaking it or modifying it or just making it work for your current connection?
Yeah, we definitely do. And, you know, our families we're all getting older, right? So we have grandparents in many of our family constellations, and we can no longer have events at their homes. Maybe they are in retirement centers. So how can we still make it meaningful for them? Because, again, it's about families and feelings. And another family I know, the parents of the children would buy gifts for the grandparents to give the grandchildren. You know, they'd open them up there at this new senior citizen center. Or if the kids are long distance, you can have them on the phone while they're opening the gifts, talking to the grandparents. You can make it meaningful still, but we just have to be willing to be flexible. It really is the key of mental health, is flexibility and adjusting to make it work.
But at the end of the day, those feelings comes first.
Oh, absolutely. It's all about that. It really isn't about the objects or the thing or the right event. It's really the people and the feelings and being a family that belongs to each other.
I've thought about this a lot, knowing you're going to bring this topic to the table, and I come from a very traditional family, right?
Yep.
We have activities that we've stuck to, and I do think that flexibility is so important, because you see this younger generation coming forward, and they've been taught this, that they can say no. It's a give and take, isn't it? It's a give and take on both sides, because you'd hate to just play the selfish card and throw it all away, but you do want to be sensitive to the changing dynamics.
Yeah, and changing is really less about selfishness. It's really more about what's going to work better for all of us so that we have a better experience and there's low stress and we just get to enjoy each other.
I like it.
So it's selfless, I think.
Great reminders, great advice. Thank you, Liz, so much.